Hey everybody, it's Tracy, and I wanted to talk about the TMF, also known as the match list, and TMF, terminated merchant file, also known as the member alert to control high risk merchants, is a list compiled by MasterCard on behalf of acquiring banks, who are the banks that process credit card transactions on behalf of merchants. And you find yourself on that list, or come to find yourself on that list, through some violation of your terms and agreement with your merchant processor. So it can be excessive chargebacks, it could be an unpaid debt relating to a chargeback, it can be violation of terms, like in the sense of you were processing crypto transactions, which was against their terms and conditions, criminal activity, really a whole host of things. And what's important to note, and I've mentioned this in the context of like obtaining bank accounts post them being closed for like crypto and other things, is that unlike that scenario with banking where you have early warning check systems, or even like your personal credit, like you go to, buy a car, but you get turned down because they run your Experian report and your credit score is too low. Well, those Experian, check system, etc., are credit reporting agencies under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, FCRA, and other acts. And they're highly regulated, right? And the government, as I've explained before, promulgates this process by which you can challenge the information on your credit report through a very simple back and forth process. And due to a myriad of factors, it's relatively simple to remove inaccurate items, but even sometimes accurate items, because it's actually the onus is on the credit reporting agency to effectively prove what you're claiming isn't true. And often doesn't happen. But the thing with the TMF match list is that it's not a credit reporting agency. It's run by MasterCard, but it deals with business debt and business obligations, right? And business activity. So, like Paydex, some of these other like credit scores, which are most phony, but there is no way for them to be regulated, right? Because the FCRA and other acts only deal with consumer reports. So you have this scenario where you find yourself on the list for a myriad of reasons, and you're on it for 5 years, right? After 5 years, you are supposed to be automatically dropped off, 5 years since the time you're put on, but it rarely happens that way. Like there's a lot of and I've encountered this with different individuals, like where for whatever reason they don't pop off after 5 years, right? And you also don't have a right to actually obtain the report. So like if you run credit for whatever, or you get turned down for a bank account, well, you have a right to receive a free copy of the credit reporting agency report that they used to actually make their decision, right? So you're kind of stuck in this way. And, MasterCard does provide this sort of function to which you can contest the information. And people always say, well, why do I need to? I'll just go start another company. Well, it's not that simple, because not only will the company that, titularly was holding the merchant account be on the list, but also any guarantors of that account. So like if you have, a startup, a newer company, or even a mid-sized company, you're almost always going to have a UBO who is a guarantor on the merchant account in case there's like chargebacks and the account goes negative, and like you're personally liable for the debts of that company. So you get thrown on it as well, right? So then when you go start another company and then go apply to wherever, Stripe or whoever, to try to get a merchant account, you get turned down because you're on the list, right? The TMF match list. So you are inherently in a tough spot, because in my experience, very few people have success dealing with MasterCard and getting their name off of a TMF match list, right? And it goes beyond that because in, more, I guess, voluminous scenarios, right, where you've got a company that has, an extraordinarily high volume of card transactions, right, it can be like critical to your business. It can shut the business down, right, if you're on that list. So in many cases, because that MasterCard process that they create, they control, like the onus is on you. I mean, there's no legal basis for it. It's just what they feel they need to do. You actually have to pursue legal avenues to compel them to take you off the list. And of course, that costs money. One, because you're going to court. Two, you have to have a palpable, strong case because they fight them, right? They fight them because they care about the quote-unquote integrity of the TMF match list, which is questionable to begin with. But you find yourself in court and there's a myriad of causes of action, defamation, a whole host of things that you can allege, and really all you're seeking is a declaratory judgment, like a judgment of the court that says you have not, you, the individual or the merchant company, have no bases to be on or included in the TMF match list or otherwise are being harmed by doing so because there's no basis therefore. So the key, obviously, maybe don't find yourself on the list, but things happen and it's a very difficult list to get off, but it can in fact be done. It's just a lot of work. And if you can't do it through MasterCard, which in my experience is like very glaring errors they'll correct only, you're looking at ramping up, hiring an attorney, and starting the shit bomb letters back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So then eventually winding up in court. And, at the end of the day, even though it is a complete loss leader for MasterCard to defend a case, right, over something so simple, they're going to do it, right? And it's a very governmental approach to it. So that is the TMF, aka match list. My advice, don't get on it, but what are you going to do, right? There's nothing you can do to really prevent it. And especially when you're in any sort of high risk vertical, it's really a matter of time because the ambiguous terms that the acquiring banks will give them a reason to shut you down for basically any reason. And if you've been in crypto or adult or any of this, then you probably know this, right? So you're constantly trying to find somebody else to nominally guarantee the account, which is a whole nother issue. So that's my take, TMF match list. You have any questions, how to get on, get off, whatever, give me a shout, Adam at adamtracy.io. I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.